What's up, party people? My name is Sunny Ray. This is the Sunny Ray Show. I think this is going to be interview number 5 today. Every guest today has been amazing. And yeah, this next guest, I'm really excited to be welcoming her here. We're going to talk about something a little bit different than what we've been talking about today, but nonetheless, it'll be quite interesting. Kristi shares why the future of development belongs to local people. So with that said, I'm going to bring her on. She is you're the founder of Local Real Estate Developers. And how are you doing? Where are you calling in from today, Kristi?
Hey, doing well. I'm in Southwest Florida.
Nice, sunny Florida. That's I think I don't know if I told you, but we went down to New York this past weekend with the little ones, and we were thinking just since we enjoyed the road trip so much, but like what it would take for us to go down to Florida in the Tesla. Probably a bit of an ambitious one,
Lots of
but
stopping and charging. I would have range
yes.
anxiety, but
Yeah. We actually, they're best friends and our neighbors. They go every summer, so we're thinking of
oh,
maybe
very
tagging
cool.
along with them. So tell me, Kristi, what are you building? Why should people care? Like, what's the kind of the TLDR, and then happy to kind of go deeper into it later on.
Yeah. Currently, we're working on 2 different types of projects. One is a boutique hotel, probably somewhere around 40 to 80 doors, either in the Mountain West, or we've got a lead on one in Spain. And then we also have Elevate Southwest Florida and St. Pete, which is a 15 to 20 acre sports and wellness destination. So it's our missing third spaces in our communities that we are working on doing. And I've been in real estate development for 20 years, which is why something crazy like that's 5 to 6 years, 140 million plus is even possible.
Wild. Okay, cool. So I'm super interested to go deeper into this. So I guess you were installing signs at CVS stores and asked the developer, right, how they got into the business. What exactly did you say, and what did they say back?
Yeah. So when I very first graduated out of college, I moved to Florida and I ended up working for a sign vendor because I was like, well, I'll go to a job fair, got a job, cool, putting up signs, great. You pull permits, you work with sign installers, you work with national retailers, and you put up signs. Through that, though, I realized, oh my gosh, there's these people called developers, and they're the ones shaping our communities. So having worked with them on those projects for about a year, I finally just looked at one in the field one day and I'm like, hey, Eric, what's it take to be a developer? And I thought he'd tell me to go to school and do X, Y, and Z. And he's like, well, for us, we're a smaller company. They were in the Tampa Bay area and they had 20 to 30 employees at the time. And they're like, if you're the right person, we'll teach you the industry. I'm like, great. When are you hiring me? And the reason I had the guts to ask that is because I had worked with them. They knew my work ethic. They understood that there was no failure. It was, you're going to get it done. You're going to hit all deadlines. You're going to exceed expectations. And so 3 weeks later, I joined their company. And about 6 months after that, I had convinced them that I should be the person to move to Southern California and open up their Orange County office because that's when Family Dollar wanted to build in California. And it was right in 08, 09. And it was perfect for the economy. And so we got the chance to do that.
And what did you not know then that you would have, kind of terrified you if you had?
Uh, Everyone said that California was so much red tape and it was scarier and longer and very similar to like New York City or Boston or Miami or any major city. There's going to be a lot more red tape. So I think I just didn't comprehend how complex development was. But what I knew is that I already was a professional problem solver. And I was like, I'm going to figure it out regardless. So signing up for the 60 to 80 hour weeks and complete grinding and being on the road and just running myself ragged just from the sheer volume of projects that we had, because we were in startup mode in the sense of you don't make money in development for years because you will work for free until you get to the ending and the exit. So we couldn't staff up a full team to make that happen. So I would do it 10 times out of 10 again, because I knew that I was getting an experience that most people would pay for and I was getting paid to do it.
So 20 years, I guess, projects all over the country. Like, what's the one that you're most proud of and the one you would maybe take back?
In general, so in 2015, after getting all the development experience, I started my own company. And through beach volleyball, of all things, I got connected with these guys who were starting a hydrogen company to power the hydrogen, the light duty and the heavy duty trucks, so cars and semis. They just didn't know development. They had the technology, they got the grants, they had the venture capital that was worldwide. And they just didn't know development. And I ended up getting paired with them because I had done hundreds of projects. And we partnered for a decade in building just about every hydrogen station in California, the supply chain, the infrastructure. And we were basically creating the technology and the equipment with the equipment suppliers overseas. We're working with venture capital that's global. We're also working with the state of California with grants and the state fire marshal and all the cities. And it was just such a complex but fun program to be able to do something that nobody else had done. So to me, I always like to create things that don't exist and make it all happen. So it was just a super fun experience. The projects I would take back, one doesn't really stand out. I mean, having done so many, I mean, every single one will blow up. It'll give you gray hair and wrinkles, but you learn from each one, and you get to work with different design teams and jurisdictions and utility providers. I wouldn't take one back. I would just go, they all added to the story, added to what happened over time.
And you started your own firm, like you said, in 2015. So what made you stop working for other people?
I am not an employee. I've always been a serial entrepreneur since the beginning. What stopped me from starting it sooner was the same thing that stops most people: imposter syndrome, the fear of the unknown, the golden handcuffs of getting paid a crap ton of money and not have any risk on the line outside of, I don't know, maybe tomorrow they don't need me and then letting me go, which to me, that's more terrifying. I've always been an entrepreneur. I think you are much more set up safer if you have multiple revenue streams on your own versus just one W-2 paycheck. So the minute I got to a point where I knew I had done what most people have never done and will never do, to do hundreds of development projects. Most people will do 5 to 10 in their career. So I knew I had the experience, and I just had to get past my own fear and doubt and go, let me give it a shot. So I literally bought a Nissan Rogue, laid in the back, and I was like, okay, if this doesn't work and I have to live on the street, I could sleep in the back of my car. Cool. It's worth giving it a shot.
That's an interesting perspective, but a really practical one, right? Because you're right, you don't need a whole lot, and I do think that the risk reward ratio gets seen in a light that doesn't make a lot of sense. I think entrepreneurship is actually less risky, which is counterintuitive. So right. Take me to the days right after Ian. What did Fort Myers Beach actually look like?
Yeah, so living in Fort Myers Beach in Southwest Florida in 2022, we got completely wiped out by Hurricane Ian. And when I say completely wiped out, we are in a 10 to 15 year rebuild period. A lot of our structures just simply disappeared and washed away. So now we're 4 years into that process. And it was, I biked in 3 days after just to see if I even had a property left. And the smells, what you saw, the news doesn't show everything, and they probably shouldn't because it's not what anyone should see. But it did. It looked like a war zone. It looked like it had been completely decimated. But it was at that point that you really start to understand the real purpose and point of life, and its relationships, its connection, its collaboration. And it was at that point that I said, you know what? I don't want to keep building more shopping centers or apartment complexes. I want to do stuff that matters with impact and purpose. So that's when I founded Local Real Estate Developers, to teach locals how to be the ones being the developers in their community. Because the number one thing I heard here on the beach was that now we had outside developers swoop in and buy up 4 acres for $50 million. They're going to build these massive towers. And before that, most of our structures were a couple stories high. But now when it gets redeveloped, because the cost of construction, the cost of just development in general, and we need to rebuild, that's what's going to happen. So one way to avoid that is that the locals are the ones who are constantly reinvesting in our infrastructure and our roads and our utilities and our buildings and making them more sustainable over time in pieces, as opposed to a complete rebuild, which is going to be more costly. So one of the things I like to share with our group, because I have the local real estate developer mentorship and a podcast, and it's just that we have over 16,000 communities in the United States with a population of less than 10,000 people. So if you can flip that single family house, which we all are very comfortable thinking about real estate and going, oh, okay, maybe I could do a fix and flip. Maybe I could do a house hack. You can also take that downtown building and you can flip that too, because it's not that much more cost. And you could take the bottom part and you could turn it into retail space or office space. And then above it, have a couple apartments. And now instead of impacting one property and one family, you've now impacted so many different lives and families, from the businesses who now get to operate, the employees they hire, the people that get to live above, the property management that gets to manage. And you can just have a much bigger impact while also helping your community be more sustainable and resilient.
Wow. And you said you watched people from all over the country, right, talk about how your community should be built or rebuilt. Who were they, and what were they getting wrong?
It's not that they're getting it wrong. They're looking at the zoning, they're looking at the dollars, they're looking at the financial markets to go, this is what would make sense. And building massive 17-story towers with amazing luxury units and parking garages and pools and all of that and all the amenities, and this is a tourist-driven community, that will make money and that will work, and the tourists will come and stay there. But what happens is that the locals who live here year round, and not just the January through April snowbirds, the locals then get overlooked. And then we're left with giant shadows that oversee lots and beaches that never used to be there. And those giant buildings will probably be empty for a portion of the year, because we just, in the off season, there's way less people here. So from a financial perspective, the developers will come in and they can make their returns, but they're not looking at the people who are left behind. They're not looking at the people who live there daily. And that's something that the locals, instead of saying, not in my backyard, do something about it. Go do something about it and improve your community, one building, one structure, one property at a time.
Was there a specific moment that you knew you couldn't spend the next 20 years building another shopping center?
It was at the top of the bridge when I was biking in. So we have two large bridges
Okay.
now. And it was when I got to the top and I actually almost couldn't breathe. And it wasn't that it was that strenuous of a bridge. It was just taking in the overwhelming devastation. And it was just like, okay, because I also knew, being in development, what it would take, because first you get to clean up and then you get to deal with FEMA and SBA and insurance. And once you fight through all of that, then you go through the normal development process. And to get to that point, that could be 2 or 3 years. Like, we're just now getting some stuff on the south end of the island 4 years later open. And that's very normal. And I knew that would be the case. That's why from the beginning, I said this is a 10 to 15 year rebuild period. Because just to get through paperwork, you're probably talking 4 years for most things, and then raising capital and then doing a couple of years of construction and then getting open. So it was all overwhelming from the beginning, knowing how much effort it was going to take, and knowing that we had an older population and that a good chunk of them might just say, I'm not spending my retirement in a rebuild and I'm leaving, and we have tons of empty lots from that are waiting for someone eventually to buy and rebuild.
Yeah, so a 10 to 15 year rebuild is a long time to hold conviction,
Yeah.
right? So where are you in it, and what is kind of like the honest state of the recovery?
Yeah. So we're 4 years in, and at this point, so we had the owners of the Whale. A lot of people from here are from the Midwest, and the owners of the Whale were Ohio people. They had just bought it 4 months prior to the hurricane destroying their business. They own many industrial businesses and uses up in the Midwest, and were coming to retire down here, and had bought a restaurant as a way to create an Ohio State bar and just have something cool down here to do. And then they were one of the first ones who said, we are rebuilding. We have been vacationing here our entire lives. This is our community. This is our home. We're going to give people hope by saying we're doing it. We're willing to go through the long, complicated process to make this happen. And honestly, once Don and Mike did that, it helped all of the other local business owners whose restaurants and businesses also washed away go, all right, if they're willing to do it, we're willing to try to. And together, then we almost created, well, they did create a coalition. They created What's Up F&B, and they created a place where even though all the restaurants technically are competing for all the same customers, they're not, because they can't hold all the customers. So they've come together. And so once a month, there's a meeting to go, hey, what activities can we do and create to give people a reason to come here and give something for the locals to do? So it's just been awesome seeing that. To do something massive and to do something that creates a ripple effect, you don't have to do this crazy awesome thing. You just have to make one decision and take one step at a time. And then it gets that ripple effect, it gets that momentum, and it turns it into something really awesome.
And what did that disaster teach you about development that maybe the 20 years of work had not?
Well, the one thing it taught me, regardless, was that the only thing we control in life is our response to the things that happen, because we cannot control anything, but we can control our attitude, our response, and how we choose to move forward after something happens. And it was very clear and evident that you could put in 10, 20, 30 years of work and to watch people's whole livelihoods just go away. Like there were so many small owned businesses that they had like a 30 to 50 unit hotel, or they had a small shopping center, and just to watch poof overnight, everything you thought was permanent, that you were set up for retirement, gone. And insurance does not cover it. When it comes to hurricanes and surges in Florida, we're capped at $250,000. I'm sorry, if you have a building that's worth $5 million and insurance is only paying you $250,000, even if it's paid off, your retirement just disappeared overnight. So it also teaches you about diversifying and understanding that self-insurance, and whether it's physically building things around structures or getting additional outside private coverage, but it teaches you the ins and outs and nuances of disasters for sure.
And Kristi, you say that development is not about buildings, right? It's about leadership, relationships, and solving problems. So can you convince a skeptic who thinks that that's just like a nice thing for developers to say?
It depends on what the developer's purpose is. So a lot of times we have developers and we have larger groups who go into our primary and our secondary cities. So our big cities and our cities just under that threshold. And it's purely based on numbers. And they're going to look at it and say, okay, based on the numbers, the demographics of this, you guys need 10,000 more units. We're going to build a couple different 500 unit complexes, and we're going to make it a mixed use. And the numbers in that all work. Where what happens though is you lose the heart and you lose the soul of a community. And you get towns that are cookie cutter, and you get track home developments that are there with your national tenants in the shopping centers next door, because now you need the AutoZones, the O'Reillys, the Publix, the different things. But then every community looks the same, and it loses the culture, it loses the community, and it makes it harder for people to connect and to be there. But they're cogs and wheels going to their job every day doing the things, but there's nothing deeper. So when development happens from the inside though, you preserve the culture and the heritage of the area. And maybe you keep that brick road because there's a lot of memories and history that go back. And then just like in Ybor City in Tampa, they kept the old brick roads, they kept the old historic buildings. And it's like Ybor, if you say Ybor in Tampa, like it looks nothing like the rest of Tampa. And it is literally why people will come to the area and hang out, and why certain people will be attracted to that. So by doing development from inside, you're now creating a space where development is happening with and for our locals. And the locals are the ones who live there every day. They know what's missing. They know what's needed. And it's just a much better way to design our communities to truly foster that sense of relationship and people and connection and collaboration.
Kristi, thank you so much. This has been a great interview. If you can maybe help me answer this last one, right? So if someone listening loves their town and hates what's happening to it, like what's step one for them essentially?
Step one would be to both talk to the local community officials because they're probably much more attainable and they will respond to your call than you think. But I would also look and see who's building and doing things in the community, because you're always going to have locals that are doing it along with outsiders, and start to talk to them and see what they're seeing from what they're building. And the more conversations you have, the more doors are going to open, and the more you'll be like, oh, so that's how, this is what's happening, because the city will have the plan for what they want to happen in the future. The people building and doing the work are actually understanding what's happening right now. And through that, you'll find something that maybe you go, oh, so that vacant lot that I keep driving past, I know what to do with it now. And I know the people to go talk to figure out how to make it happen. And then you can just slowly but surely start to make some headway in your own community.
Awesome, Kristi. Well, thank you so much. Hang out for 1 minute. I'm going to bring this stream to an end. So you have a bunch of people listening live. So thank you all. Appreciate it a lot. And yeah, until next time.